Hi, I'm Ron James, and this is another edition of the Sedona Scene. Now, with me today is a very special guest, another one of those people who lives in Sedona and walks their walk, keeps a low profile, but is known all over the world. Peggy Phoenix Dubro. Peggy, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me here today.
Now, you've done a whole lot of stuff that's well known throughout the globe. You just got back from a worldwide tour.
Yes.
You originated the EMF balancing technique, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and you have a book. What's the book called?
The book is called Elegant Empowerment. It's the book is about 10 years old now. It is a merging of science and spirituality, and it is a book that's out there as a reference to the EMF balancing technique and to the Universal Calibration Lattice, a system in the energy anatomy that I discovered back in 1988. And I've been working with that system all of these years, all over the world, using it, proving it, finding out more about who we really are and how to strengthen our own presence and our own ability and our own wholeness in our daily life.
Now, the EMF balancing technique is practiced now in 70 countries, and so it's gaining traction worldwide. Can you take us back to 1988 and tell us where it started, where it all began, and for the layman, just explain the basics of what we're talking about.
Okay. Now it's going to get weird if we go to that.
It's okay. It can
it's
get
already weird,
yes,
is it?
Yes.
It's already weird. Quite often when I sign the book and someone says, well, my friend doesn't quite believe in this, I say, welcome to the weird and wonderful world of energy. So we'll go to the weird part. 1988. Prior to that, I had already had an experience of no beginning and no end, which really, to use the words that we understand today, it blew all my chakras wide open. You could say that it really blew my awareness and my mind. This was not drug-induced or alcohol-induced. I had that experience at the end of the 60s, the beginning of the 70s. And it brought about tremendous awareness within my own being of that no beginning and no end, of the unlimited love, of just how connected we all are. And it also made it very difficult to live here. So I did a lot of study for 15 years. I studied many different things, from born-again Christianity to I studied with several shamans. I studied martial arts. I have years and years went into that. And then by 1988, I knew I was ready for that next experience of no beginning and no end.
Now, when you say live here, do you mean live in this plane on planet Earth?
Live on planet Earth. What is it like once you have expanded consciousness and you begin to see how connected everything is in the universe, and to experience that in this body, in this mind, and many people are having this kind of experience. And then how do you translate all of that energy? How do you translate that information and bring it into daily life? And in the beginning, the first 15 years was just a lot of study and a lot of learning and almost going around in a circle, because I really wanted to be in that expanded awareness and that expanded consciousness. And in 1988, I'm a mother of two, and I'm taking care of other children so I can stay home. So for many years, I lived quite a monastic life just by living my daily life. And I have this experience again of no beginning and no end. And
can you clarify that? What does that mean exactly?
I believe it's that experience that many mystics have talked about. I call myself a practical mystic now. I've learned to translate it into my daily life, but it's the experience of seeing so many levels of existence that it goes on infinitely. It's an experience of experience the universe as one total, complete entity. And for me, in experiencing it that way, there was this energy of unlimited, unconditional love. There's the energy of love, very different from what we call love here. And it was that energy of love that drove me for all those years to study, because I wanted to keep that consciousness. To me, I felt it was quite possible to have that awareness and live one's daily life. So it was a lot of experiences along the way. What I noticed in my life is that I was having, before that experience with the lattice in 1988, I had a lot of insights, beings of light, different levels of existence, very, very intuitive, very aware of what I would call creator's love, aware of how connected we all are. But at the same time, when I looked at my daily life, it just reflected chaos, and it didn't reflect the peacefulness. It didn't reflect those things that I knew were possible. It was so hard to be here in limited space, knowing how unlimited we are. But I wanted to learn how to do that. I even embraced, there's that great metaphysical lesson, that everything here is Maya, it's illusion.
Sure.
And I embraced that. I embraced that so much that my daily life became not important. My own being, I became a non-person because it's all illusion, so why bother? And then one day, it took me much longer than many others, but I woke up and I said to myself, this may be illusion, but while I'm here, I'm going to do something with it. I'm going to have fun with it. And then that experience, the second one in 1988, was when I literally, for myself, the experience was like this. This is how I describe it. I became this energy pattern called the lattice. I later started to learn that the lattice, or this pattern, is a system in our energy anatomy, and that this system in our energy anatomy allows us to live more of these truths, to become more of that wholeness, that holographic wholeness or holiness that we are, to be a better person, to live a full life, and to bring all those different energies into now time. And then I started to understand the system of the energy anatomy I could see it in other people's energy fields. Then I started to learn how to work with it and develop the work, and then developed where people wanted to learn how to do the work, and developed teachers. And so it's grown from the living room of my home, from love of Creator, and now it is my opportunity to travel around the world, and I speak at all different venues. Sometimes I'm speaking to 100 people. Sometimes I can be speaking to 3,000 people. But everywhere I go, in my truth, I greet people and I say, well, hello, family of humanity, because that's how I see us. That's how I live it. So it started with this love of this other place, and now I've fallen in love with human beings. And that's also evident in all the travel we do and all the people we meet. I'm learning about Creator in ways I never thought I would.
Well, let me ask you this. So basically you're saying that it started with a greater understanding of the more infinite nature of your own existence, and then a sense of almost being, I don't know if imprisoned is the right word, but contained within this realm, even though you know that there's so much more, and it's like this physical barrier that we all have to deal with in the human condition. And then you began to make new and exciting discoveries that could help yourself and people. So my question is do you consider that this was a gift or a natural evolution of your own quest, or a combination of both? Or how do you think you got from this point of being in a place where a lot of people are, to all of a sudden opening new doors and propelling yourself to really some of the forefront of the conscious movement?
I think I pestered the universe so much that there was an answer, and it was like, just give her something to do. And it is really interesting because the work creates a foundation, and I'm teaching people about foundations, so you teach that which helps you're the most. But in that foundation, I have found my greatest freedom. So it's a lot of fun. It's been a lot of hard work. And now there's much recognition coming for the work. Recently, we are now part of a curriculum in the Integrative Psychology Institute in Moscow. We're building bridges. We are in an alternative or complementary medicine college in Israel. We're starting to be noticed that we have something that can be part of curriculums. It doesn't change the sacredness. We're building bridges.
Sure.
I've always had an eye on going mainstream, because this information, this understanding, it's for everyone. It's for everyone. I believe we're all practical mystics, and that we can actually have a good time at it.
Well, we really don't have time in this time and place in history to philosophize about stuff. We've got to, as a species and as individuals, we've got to take action. We've got to move forward in a way that's a lot more than lip service now, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I'm right there with you. There's a lot of talk about this 2012 time frame, and I don't know what that will be, a measuring, an opportunity. But in this moment, I feel like people are really under a lot of tension, and I liken it to remember when we sometimes in school would wait to the last minute to do an assignment. And it's almost as if collective consciousness knows that, and we're really working hard to finish this assignment. And I'm excited about manifesting and demonstrating what we know is possible. And that's the joy of learning more about quantum physics. I had an opportunity to take part in an event in October in England with Lynn McTaggart, who's doing the intention experiments, and Sir Rupert Sheldrake, who talks about the morphogenic field, and Bruce Lipton with the biology of belief. It was really wonderful, and I enjoyed being there because I like demonstrating that what we think is possible, and that's what we're doing with this work. We're demonstrating that what we think is possible, we can do. As you start to understand the lattice, you will understand more about how to communicate with the language of energy, how to communicate what we think is possible and bring it to this dimensional reality.
Now, I'm just going to ask your opinion about this.
Sure.
We have what we call the human condition. You spoke of it briefly. And then we have this wonderful new understanding. And a lot of times I find myself wondering, how much can we take advantage of what we are beginning to know before we run into limitations of the human condition that prevent us from going further? Or are those limitations there at all? Is there a barrier that says, okay, you can understand the energetic nature of the universe, but there's only so much in your realm you're going to be able to do with it? Or can we literally transcend beyond our existence as we know it?
Oh, to me, that's a great question. Again, understanding the system in your energy anatomy, the dynamics of your own energy, and how to direct your own energy, this opens the doors to pushing back limitations. There's always limitations. I mean, we push back what we consider limitations, we open new reality, there's going to be more limitations. But indeed, at this point, to keep a consistent effort, to keep seeing if we're living our truth in our daily life, if we're demonstrating what we know is possible with those that we work with every day, that we live with every day. That, to me, is the first place to start, with the human limitations. And when you start to demonstrate that, then you can also do this in other places. I mean, we travel all over the world. And here we are, we come in from our country. I was in Venezuela in November of last year during the referendum change. And it was amazing. These people, our leaders, are at odds. There's a limitation. You know, the leaders are at odds with one another, and yet, through understanding energy, through understanding ourselves as whole being, we can. That's a limitation that I would like us to expand. We can build bridges of understanding through this work, and that expands limitations. We could talk about limitations everywhere. We have them inside of us, and we have them outside of us, and so it's constantly, I think, the joy, now that we understand that enlightenment is not this, we wear white robes, even though I'm wearing white pants today, and we're not sitting on a mountaintop contemplating our belly button where everything is just Om. Enlightenment, there's that wonderful Zen saying, chopping wood, carrying water, before enlightenment, after enlightenment, chopping wood, carrying water. In modern day life, we're living our lives, and we're moving our boundaries of what we consider to be enlightenment and bringing that into our daily life.
Let's talk about the conscious movement for a moment. You've
Sure.
been involved in this. You were doing conscious when conscious wasn't cool. You've gone through your evolution and your own designation of your concepts into what you do now. And you've really faced a lot of very interesting, happy occasions, and then you've really faced a lot of, I don't want to say ridicule, but just really not so positive reactions from people that are supposedly kind of beyond that negative way of doing things. Mm-hmm. What do you think of the whole conscious movement now, and where it's going and where it needs to go?
Now, I would like the conscious movement to be renamed New Thinking instead of New Age, or Expanded Consciousness, or Community of Consciousness. But for the past 2.5 years, as I've traveled around the world, I've also held community meetings. And I've been speaking to those of us in this community and asking, requesting that we treat one another with more respect, that we be more mindful that each one of us is making an effort to expand consciousness. Recently, we developed a program for business people to help them apply some of the quantum ideas to their businesses or organizations, and using the Lattice. It's called the Lattice for Organizations. And something that was said to me by business people was, when we touch the culture, when we touch this community, sometimes we're just so amazed at how cruel people can be with one another in this community. I understand what we're developing. I understand that we're evolving, and that sometimes the stresses of that, it might not bring out the very best of who we are. But I've really asked the community to start thinking about how we can be more supportive of one another, how we can be more professional. I'm very comfortable with the work that I've brought into the world, and I'm also very comfortable looking around and seeing other people's work and saying, wow, that is really great. I'm not threatened by it. It's like, and here we are, we're the people that say, we know how connected we all are. And I think that we could demonstrate that just a little bit better than we do now.
So, yeah, it's like, hey, we're all interconnected. I'm sorry if I just kicked you in the teeth.
Right.
I have this self-destructive streak.
Exactly. Very well put, Ron. Very well put.
Yeah.
And something that was interesting, after the very first meeting that I gave asking for this, and it was like with questionnaires and asking people to think about how we can support and become more of an effective culture, because we're not helping ourselves right now. We can see the possibility for change, and how do we affect that change? And right after, an hour after I gave that talk, interesting synchronicity. We didn't cause it, but there was a fire in Sedona. It was the one that lasted for several weeks. And when I returned to Sedona from my home, I could see every day this smoke over Sedona. And it took 3 days, and finally I got the message, and it was this place that's also been called a New Age or New Thinking Mecca. Here was this giant smudge over this beautiful, beautiful town saying, it was like a wink, yes, you can clean yourselves up. You can do this. Let's move forward, because there's so much to do in the world. And I believe that we can bring in an energy that will help anchor this change that we know is possible on the planet.
It seems like the New Age movement has become, okay, we understand all this advanced information about consciousness and energy in the universe and creating reality, which really isn't that new. It's actually quite old. It's just come around full circle through science and complete digression. But now it's like, how do we take advantage of that energy more than how do we use that energy to enrich ourselves as human beings? And so the same underlying motivations as greed and self-centeredness and need for recognition and mind is still pervasive through this enlightened community. So what do we do about this? How do we change it?
Well, I think we can keep elevating it. I remember for years and years embracing that ego was not a good thing as one was on their spiritual path. And I remember letting go of ego so much that I was a non-person. Now I encourage people to have sense of self. And I do encourage people to present themselves. I think that this is healthy. We're always going to be refining the levels of greed and me, and those kinds of things. Hopefully, as we evolve, I would say that that's what we're doing. But at the same time, learning to offer a hand of recognition to another, or a helping hand to someone else who's developing. And I think we can do this. Even just something so little as learning to pay attention to what you say about others in general in your life. But since we're talking about this, I see energy work and expanded consciousness as energy work itself. I see it as a viable profession. And then there are many other professions within this collective consciousness, this community of expanded consciousness, that it's time that we can start to say to one another and demonstrate there is plenty of work for all of us. There is plenty to do, and that together we can really move forward. We're a culture that we buy homes, we use our intuition to see where we should be. We're a force. We're a force that's growing. I know that our numbers may not be that big, but again, science is showing us that there's this exponential effect, and really numbers don't have to be that big. So if we can create some new level of unity, and it doesn't have to be making nice. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about just to respect. Even if I disagree with you, I can respect you for what you're doing. So we have work to do. Those are just some little examples of just little things that I think can make a big difference.
Well, thanks. I appreciate your opinion on that. I mean, it's something that really has to be addressed, and not enough people are talking about it. Not enough people are doing something about it. So thanks for that. But let's get back to your work. You've made some splashes in South America and Europe, and I'm just kind of curious, being here in the United States, people have their own almost blinders on as far as the rest of the world and where people are progressing. But this conscious movement is as alive, if not more so, in some of these other countries. Can you tell us about what you've seen?
Yes, some of the things we've looked at that we've had to work with are even like the different countries and the legality of practicing energy work. That's one of the challenges. And in Germany, there's this branch of the government that works with regulating holistic practices. And this DGAM, they actually developed a special course for our EMF balancing technique practitioners and teachers for them to take so that they can practice legally in Germany. That's just one place. We're starting to see the work be recognized by insurance companies in Canada. There's actually been a few here in the United States, very, very small, but that sessions can be paid for by insurance companies, and even some of the trainings, the teachers' trainings, by an insurance company. So we're starting to find out how to move within the system. And I understand there are those who will say, well, the system's not going to be around. But for now, the system is around.
The system is here, sure.
And I'm learning how to be within that system.
And so, yeah, you can say, well, hey, I'm now regulated. I've made it to the top. Yes.
That's very good. Not exactly what I thought when I first... I mean, we're all rebels. We're all rebels in this arena. Personally, I'm looking for evolutionaries. That's,
right.
Those who are evolutionaries who can live this. So learning how to function in these different countries. In Uruguay, we were just presented by the Ministry of Tourism a recognition for us being there and for holding an event there, and we're waiting for a recognition from the Ministry of Culture. So here we are. We're a cultural event with this work. We build, sometimes I'll have classes with people from as many as 18 different countries in one room. In Sedona in June, I have an event happening here. I will have people from over 30 different countries in one class. They roll up their sleeves, they work energetically, and we build bridges of understanding.
That's amazing. We're getting tight on time, so I've got a couple products here. This is the Lattice Reframing Your Reality. Looks like it shot beautifully outside. Who's this on the cover?
This is Andreas Hoffmann, and he is a German Tai Chi master. We worked with him for 2 years to create a really nice Tai Chi DVD so that people can start to experience working with their own Universal Calibration Lattice, that system in the energy anatomy I was talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so here's another one. This is, I guess, Reframing Your Reality. This is your video.
Yes.
I'm going to hold it up just for a second, but we don't want to...
The lattice, yes. And reframing one's reality, that's big news these days. And learning how to work within the lattice. There's some real nice animations over on this DVD. And the animations are like open-eyed meditations or open-eyed experience. And there's also a little bit of teaching people how to do an introductory EMF balancing technique energy session. So it's got good information in there for people to try, to apply, to work with, to do, which is nice. And having said all of that, there are times that we want to be still. That people will say, but it is all within the stillness. And that is appropriate. And then there are times to do. So it's learning that magical word of balance, when to take action and when to go still. And I think that that's important for us to remember that.
Well, I know that we haven't spent a whole lot of time going in depth on what EMF balancing is, but I think really what we have succeeded in doing is getting to know Peggy Phoenix Dubro in a way that maybe hasn't been done in some other interviews, that give people an opportunity to connect with you and what you're all about without, touting, well, this is what this is all about. Because if they want to learn about EMF balancing, they can go to your website, and what's that?
www.emfworldwide.com. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's emfworldwide.com. And if you just Google Peggy Phoenix Dubro, you'll probably run across her schedule, all kinds of reviews from guys like Greg Braden, who really, really supports her work.
Thank you.
And there's just a whole lot of stuff happening, and you're right there at the forefront. So
thank you.
Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Ron.